Beekeeping in Kenya has been practiced traditionally for many years. However, modern beekeeping has since become an important enterprise in the livestock subsector. Welcome to today's edition of Kilimo Biashara. We will be demystifying the sweet business of beekeeping. Stephen,
you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for welcoming us into your home.
Thank you.
What do you have for us?
Let's go to the farm.
Thank you. Let's go.
Linda, this is apiculture. You keep bees for various reasons, economic and many others. By the way, let's go low. There is a reason why we need to avoid the flight path.
What's the flight path?
The flight path, you notice that I have a fence around and the bees will want to fly in a certain direction. So we need to manage. In this apiary, we have 26 hives. Let me open. You know you have to keep it closed. Thank you. These are 26 hives with bees, which means they're all colonized.
When you say colonized, what does that mean?
It means that every hive is occupied and it has a colony that is alive with a queen, workers, and all the components that require for a whole beehive.
How do you manage these beehives?
These beehives are managed very easily. All you have to do is wake up in one morning, provide adequate supply of water. As you can see, we have some containers that we have put. They contain water. And when it comes during the evening, you can actually go probably once in every 2 weeks and inspect some of the hives because they may be infested, or you may want to confirm that there is honey, or you just want to see the general health of the bees.
Isn't it very dangerous when you are inspecting it?
You inspect during the night with your full gear because, of course, a bee will sting you if you attack or even occupy and go to the hive. So you have to be careful when you inspect during the day. You have to have your full gear with an apron and a headscarf with gloves and some gumboots.
With these several hives, how did you come about this?
I got interested back when I was working in a community project in Narok, where we were supporting community women with their economic empowerment projects. And one of the things that they were doing is beekeeping. And since I got interested, after listening to one lecture that was done by the gentleman who was training them from Nyuki Herbs, I told him I also wish to establish a similar project in my own house. So without bees, no food. When you come into the hive, you first try and smoke all the beehives that are close to you. Don't stand in front of a hive. So we come to the other hives that are closer to us. You first smoke the front, then you move away from the front because the bees are continually coming in and out. What you do next is use a hive tool. This is what you use when you are entering into a hive because the bees propolises all the spaces and it becomes very difficult to open. So since there is nothing much that we will do here, we will first open, smoke, 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 smoke.
So they basically get calm when they feel
The smoke.
How often do you inspect the beehives?
We inspect when necessary. For instance, this is a new colony. We need to confirm whether it is, if the queen is laying eggs, or whether it has been infested by wax moth. So you just note how the bees are behaving. One thing we need to confirm here is that this is a weak colony.
How much can you earn from this particular business for a small-scale trader who's just beginning?
One beehive can produce an average of 7 to 10 kilograms of honey per harvest. You can harvest a beehive 4 or 5 times in a year.
Can you be able to do other farming without having to disrupt your own core business?
Beekeeping is one of the most less labor-intensive projects that somebody can set up. Especially this, I encourage the young people to do. Because all you need to do is invest in a good hive, a stand, and a good perimeter fencing. If you do that, you have no business during the whole day in the bee apiary, because the bees will go forage all the flowers in the neighborhood, all the forests in the neighborhood. You don't have to provide for them any source of food, probably only during the very, very dry season. We call it dearth, when there are no flowers or there is no pollen.
And aside from these 26 beehives that you have here, I've seen several hanging like this one alone in the tree. Why is it so?
For every beehive to catch a natural swarm, it is good to hang it below a tree, because it is natural for bees, when swarming, to look for trees to hang on.
Most of these beehives are wooden, and during the rainy season, especially in this particular area, do you think this thing can rot away? What happens during the rainy season?
This is very nice timber. Most of the good hives are made from quality timber that has cured, and it will stay for 7 to 8 years, as long as it does not get very wet. You can see actually there's a cover on top, so the rain will actually be on top, and the sides will be protected. And then you can see that it has been well manufactured. Therefore, you are guaranteed to have this hive in your apiary for the last 7 to or even 10 years.
Stephen, for someone who's intending to start this business, how much capital will that person need?
Generally, a beehive costs an average of 8,000 to 9,000. A good beehive. Others are more expensive, others are cheaper, but these ones are adequate. And a stand will cost you about 1,800. Putting a perimeter wall depends on your capacity or your ability, but I always say start with what you have. You can start small and expand. But the general price of one hive and a stand comes to roughly about 9,000, which is an adequate, that is a fee that anybody can really invest and start beekeeping.
And what are the advantages of beekeeping?
One of the advantages of beekeeping is the products that we harvest from the beehive. We get honey, we get propolis. Propolis is the black substance that the bees use to protect the hive. It is medicinal in nature. Honey is medicinal in nature. We also get beeswax, which people use for the beauty products, others use for candles, and that is something that is readily available, and you can be able to sell that in the market. The other advantages of beekeeping is that the bees will pollinate your farm. I do farming. I do potatoes, I do strawberry farming, And one of the best things that I've realized, my returns are very good. The strawberries will be very sweet. The potatoes will be very large. And the neighbors will benefit because 90% of all our food depends on the bees.
And now, Stephen, we've seen a lot of beehives around your compound. But before we talk about that, what are the challenges that you go through in this business?
We have many challenges in beekeeping. First and foremost, security is one of the greatest challenges that any bee farmer needs to be careful about.
Yeah.
Honey is a lucrative business and it has a lot of market. So you will get very many people who will want to steal not only your honey, but even your hive. So you need to have it protected, keep it in a very safe place, and then you will be able to manage it. Some people place it in the forest, but now, because this is a modern project and these are expensive hives, you will need to have them in a safe place. Another big challenge is the ants. The safari ants will attack your hive. If you notice that there's a cap below the stand, that cap you have to put old used oil so that no ant will be able to go up to the hive to spoil your or attack your beehive. Once you do that, you have sorted that challenge. The other bigger challenge is the moth. We call it a wax moth. In very many young colonies, they are prone to attack by wax moths. Wax moths are small flies that fly, and they enter into the beehive, and they will lay eggs into the honeycombs, into the frames, and they will destroy the whole hive because no bee will stay inside a hive that has been occupied by a wax moth because it produces a very bad smell and a lot of web, and all the bees will take off and run away and leave your hive empty, and they will colonize that hive until they will produce more and more eggs. So you have to be very careful and ensure that you have inspected your hive against the attacks from wax moths. So once a bee colony expands and it becomes strong, it is able to protect itself from those attacks. Then the other challenge I have experienced is some seasons, because of either too much rain or too much dryness, you may not continually harvest your honey in a continuous way during the year. So probably the weather might be an issue, especially this area where we come from, because it's a cold area.
Yeah, and how many times do you harvest in a year?
I do harvest about 6 months in a year. The only months I do not harvest, I don't harvest in the month of April, May, June, and July. Yes, Rahab.
Hi.
Hi.
I've come to buy honey.
Come to buy honey?
Yeah.
What quantity do you want?
500.
500 grams?
Yeah.
Give me a minute. There you go. 500. Yeah. Thank you very much. Say hi to Mom.
Okay.
I supply my clients with honey because I have a continuous supply, and I want to make sure that they have quality honey.
Who's your target market when you're selling your honey?
I have ready market in this community. I actually don't go beyond my community.
Oh.
This is a place called Kikuyu, Romwe. It is in Kikuyu ward. Most of my customers are actually within the ward itself. I have a whole list of people who have enjoyed my honey. And once they finish enjoying their bottle, they always request for another. And I continually provide and supply to them. So in the minute, once a customer finishes his supply, they always call me. And I make sure that I've provided.
And you meet the
and
demand.
I actually don't even meet their demand. There are people who are on my waiting list because like the whole of this week and last week, I haven't harvested. But come the other week, they will get their bottle.
Speaking of demand meeting the supply, do you think the government is doing enough to support farmers across board?
If the government may provide some resources, especially targeting the youth, and provide some support, extensive support from the ministry, I am sure this is something that can be done. And even the country is not even meeting its own local demand.
Yeah. Joseph Karuga, an expert in bee farming who's also the Nyuki Hub Limited General Manager, tells us that the use of pesticides to control fall armyworm has led to mass death of bees, adversely affecting honey production. Karuga, so what are those technologies involved in bee farming?
We have different technologies in terms of production, in terms of processing, and also in terms of packaging of honey and other bee products. If I may start with in terms of production, where we consider specifically hives, we have 4 types of hives that are there. We have the ancient one, or the traditional one we call the log hives. It has got its own pros and cons. One being for log hive, it's good in terms of colonization, it's good in terms of bees retention, but it's the only challenge is the quality of honey. We have also what we call the Kenya Toba. Kenya Toba is another technology. It has also its own advantages and disadvantages, but just like log hive, you'll also have to cut the cob. We have now what we call the Langstroth, and Langstroth, this is now the bit improved technology, whereby it's designed in a way that the bees will get in through the bottommost part of the hive, and once they get inside, they will first settle at what we call the brood box, which is down here. That the bees will come and construct the combs here. We will have a confusion just like in the log hive. We'll have honey, we'll have the eggs, the larvae, the pollen, and the wax together.
How much does it cost to acquire one Langstroth bee?
If you buy the log hive at 3,000, for example, and you only harvest once in a year, and you buy this hive at 7,000 or 6,000, for example, and you harvest 4 times. That's now the question of cost doesn't feature, because it's more about the results. You have harvested 40 kilos from one hive in a year. You have harvested 10 kilograms in traditional hives. So the equation will balance, and in most cases it's more advantageous to you when you use this kind of technology.
There's a notion in the country that the best honey is from Baringo. Can you demystify this for us, depending on what type of honey is produced in those sides of the country that is making it different with the type of honey being produced in this area?
Okay, there are 2 ways to look into it. One, the quality of the honey, in most cases, it's determined by the nectar source. And by that, it can differ in color, it can differ in viscosity, it can differ in taste, it can differ in smell. Now, on the issue of Baringo and Kiambu, for example, honey from Baringo and honey from Kiambu, in Baringo, what is the agricultural activities that take place in Baringo? Mostly the people there, they do livestock. So they rarely use chemicals. So, and of course, the land there is fast with natural vegetation. Just natural vegetation. It's not cultivated crop. So you get what we would call, quote unquote, but you can justify that, organic honey, because there is minimal use of, minimal or even zero use of chemicals in the neighborhood. In Kiambu, like where we are now, Mr. Ngugi is doing his beekeeping, and maybe he's considering his farm for proper agricultural practices where they use the approved chemicals, but he cannot control what is being done by his neighbor. the neighbor may be using other toxic chemicals, and he can't also control the movement of bees, because basically the bees would move 3.5 to 5 kilometers radius. So that means that they will go past your boundaries. And when they get there, they will get people who are spraying coffee, they will get people who are spraying other crops, tomatoes and such, and that now affects your honey quality in terms of chemical residue. So that's why for people who are pro-organic, they would prefer buying honey from Baringo, because they know Baringo, you rarely have contamination, or residue levels are very low or even zero.
That was quite insightful. And now for someone who's looking into starting beekeeping business, what would you advise, being an expert in this field and has been in this field for quite some time?
One, I would say, if there is any agricultural enterprise you'd ever think about, it's beekeeping. Because beekeeping play a very great role, and I consider beekeeping as a complementary enterprise, other than just a pure enterprise. Complementary in this sense, if you are doing crops, currently people are into avocado farming. How do you expect to produce quality fruits if at all you not pollinate them well? How do you expect to produce quality strawberries like we saw this morning if they are not well pollinated? And in the process of pollinating that, name them coffee. 60% of the fruits that we eat, or the fruits that we grow in our farms, they are pollinated by bees in one way or the other.
When you get your honey frames from the hive, they come this way. They come sealed because the bee has to seal the honey. So it is your responsibility to uncap it. It's called uncapping. Otherwise, no honey will flow from the honeycombs. So you use this gadget to extract or uncap. It's called uncapping. So what you do with the uncapping knife, you remove the cover. This is a small layer of wax that the bees use to seal the honey so that it doesn't pour. So this is how you do it, very quickly, and you expose all the honey.
And as you're cupping like that,
yes,
these ones will be waste.
This is now called wax. You're going to put it under the wax bin so that you now extract other products from the wax. From this wax now you can do candles, you can sell it to people who do beauty products, so it doesn't get lost. And that is what you had from Mr. Karoga, that it costs between 500 to 1,500 shillings a kilo once you process it. Now this is called an uncapped frame. So the minute you remove all the caps, you place it inside the extractor. Once you place it inside, all you have to do now is rotate. Rotate it, and the centrifugal force will push all the honey to the side, as you can see. You can notice that the walls are already beginning to swell with honey. Once you do that, a few minutes only, one side is already dry, then now you remove it. Notice that there's no honey left. So the other side is full of honey. So I rotate it this other side. I actually change the direction. You see, this is dry. So now you put this side and rotate it once more. Therefore, you rotate both sides and extract all the honey from both sides. So this is full, this is empty. After that short rotation, this is full. So we rotate it once more, and it will extract all the remaining honey. All right. That is enough.
Wow.
So you notice that it is now clean. You have removed all the honey without any residue.
Yeah.
As you can notice, the honey is clean and is slowly dripping to the bottom of the extractor machine. You can see. So what you now do is that you let it, because it slows very slowly because of the viscosity. The final product. This is the final product after extraction. You just pack it straight and label and deliver it to the farmer. So, you want to have a taste?
Yes, I would definitely want to have a taste. It's so sweet.
Lovely.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you for making time for us today, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Kilimo Biashara. Until next time, when we will be bringing more farmers on board.